Go ahead and start that.
So we're recording now.
Awesome. Thank you, Beth. So yeah, we are here to do kind of a DV 101 training with everyone. We've been talking with Lauren. We came into a tour of the living room. We've loved learning about it and everything you guys are doing over there. And he just thought it'd be kind of helpful for us to give a little background and just kind of give you guys a little bit of info about the dynamics. And then we're hoping to do a second training in a couple weeks to then talk about some other skills around supporting people and, other referrals and other resources in the community. So this week it'll just kind of be some background info, and we'll be with you guys until about 5 o'clock today. So my name is Maria. I answer the intake line, and I do some of the outreach work for the Catholic Charities Domestic Violence Westside program. And then I have Beth. She's the clinical manager here with our program, and she'll kind of take over the second half of the training. So first things first, we always just kind of make this note, it's not easy to talk about or think about domestic violence. Totally understand if you guys need to take breaks or turn the camera off, do as much self-care as you need to do, especially today when we're just kind of fully talking about the dynamics and what's going on in relationships like this. And just for some clarification notes, you might hear me say DV instead of domestic violence and IPV instead of intimate partner violence. I do my best to use gender neutral pronouns because we know that anyone can experience domestic violence. And then try to use the phrases person who perpetrates abuse or person who uses harm rather than abuser or abusive partner. And then lastly, we try to use the phrase survivor rather than victim because we just want to acknowledge all the survival skills and just kind of lift up and empower people for what they've been through and the skills they've used to survive those situations. Although of course we follow how people identify. So wherever someone's at, that's kind of how we're going to follow. But for the purposes of today's training, I'll try to use survivor as much as possible in this setting. And then a quick outline. So we'll start out by going over definitions of DV and just kind of talking about the dynamics. Then we'll talk about some of the barriers to leaving and then kind of how to support people where they're at in that process. Beth is going to go over screening. I know you guys don't do like really in-depth long screening questions, it sounds like, but she'll kind of talk about just some helpful tips on how to ask questions or kind of how to create safe spaces to talk about DV. And then lastly, she'll kind of go over some of the resources in the community that we've kind of come across in the last year being around. So just learning objectives. We hope you guys will be able to leave here with a better understanding of the dynamics of DV and IPV. We don't necessarily need you guys to be totally being able to screen clients, but really just kind of how to have those conversations in a safe way. And then just hoping that you guys will be able to leave this training just with maybe a little bit better idea of what resources are out there and just kind of how to approach DV. So just kind of jumping right in on the dynamics and of domestic violence and intimate partner violence. Before I do all my talking, I want to get an idea of how many people here have done a training or, learned about or worked around DV before. Okay, great. Seeing almost everyone's hands raised. Perfect. So I'm sure a lot of this will be refreshers, maybe some reminders, maybe some tips, and feel free to share any of your insights. If there's something that you have questions about or want to add to, it'd be great. So before I give that official definition, would someone like to share kind of how you would define DV, or if someone said, what is DV, how would you kind of describe that?
I would call it unwanted violence against someone. I believe that it could be more than just physical. Like it could be something that someone doesn't want to be in because it's emotional abuse, or maybe it's taking them out of their element or something to that extent. But anything I would say that's happening within the home that's making someone not feel safe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm loving that I'm hearing this at more and more trainings that people, when I'm asking this open-ended question, they're saying that's more than just the physical violence. So we've really been trying to highlight that sometimes there isn't ever even any physical violence at all, but that emotional and verbal, psychological manipulation can be just as powerful. So yeah, thank you for highlighting that. So then the official definition is that it's a pattern of coercive behaviors designed to establish power and control over an intimate partner or family member through fear and intimidation. So just kind of breaking that down a little bit. So it's a pattern, it's the behaviors we're seeing over and over again. Definitely highlighting here that it's about power and control. So I'll be saying this phrase over and over again. It's about one person in the relationship wanting to have be the one in charge, control the other person's like feelings and behaviors in the relationship. And then ultimately it's about creating that sense of like fear and intimidation within the relationship. And just a couple quick statistics. I mean, there's a lot of different numbers we could throw out here, but just giving you guys a little snapshot of what it looks like in Chicago and in Illinois in general. So in 2020, there were just over 8,000 domestic violence related arrests made by CPD in 2020. And then there were 158,000 domestic violence related calls made just to Chicago Police Department. And then throughout the state in general, the Illinois DV hotline noted 40,000 Illinois survivors received various domestic violence related services. So with data being the way it is, we know that this is just like the tip of the iceberg. A lot of people aren't comfortable involving the police, calling the police. We know that people in general just aren't comfortable for reaching out for help for something like this, but just seeing these numbers alone, if this is just the tip of things, we know that this is a community level, societal level problem that we want to address. And sometimes we share these numbers with survivors, just let them know, like, you're not the only one experiencing this. This is something other people are experiencing. It's okay to reach out for support and get that help. And just for us as service providers, knowing there's a lot of people out there that are experiencing this just kind of gives a little snapshot here of that. So the next thing we're going to do is this quick little activity that I had mentioned before. Again, I just talked to you guys for 45 minutes straight. This is kind of an activity to kind of get you guys in the mindset of what it's like to be in a domestic violence situation. So for lack of a better term, this is kind of a choose your own adventure card activity. So we're going to break you guys into two groups. I'll lead one and Beth will lead one. And we'll start with the intro card with a relationship, kind of some background. And then you guys will kind of choose, okay, this is a scenario. Now I get to choose, for example, like, do I go to the police or do I go to a friend's house? And then we'll kind of go to that next card and it'll just kind of give you choices. We're only going to do this for about 10 minutes. You could probably spend a good like 30 minutes getting through all these cards and kind of going through all the different systems. This is just kind of to get you guys thinking about these decisions, the scenarios that kind of happen. We'll both be working with the same person, but we might end up at different places depending on, where each group chooses to go. So we will, Beth, do you have those groups set up?
Yeah, so I was gonna say it's 3:44. So maybe come back at 3:54. And what I'm gonna do is put the three people who are virtual with Maria, and then the two people that are together with me. So everyone should be getting those assignments, and I'm gonna go ahead and open those rooms. And then Maria, you and I will click on. So Maria, click to join room 1 and I will click to join room 2.
Okay. All right, we'll see you guys back in the general group.
Hello. So I wanted to just make sure. So I have, is it Dorian? Yeah, Dorian and Matt, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. And I'm Beth. It's nice to meet you. And thank you for joining us today. I think